folks, it's Laura with Rain Tree Nursery, and we are here today with the very entertaining Bob Williams of Broken Shovel Farm. We're in Burien on this lovely old property, and we're here at your very kind invitation to talk all about kiwis, hardy kiwis, right?
Yes, and what little I know, I'm happy to share with you, but don't rely on me for all your information about growing kiwis. I know more about making mistakes than I do about doing it right, but that's useful to know what mistakes you can make early on and avoid, like I didn't. So rely on Laura for advice on growing hardy kiwis
well, I
way.
I have to say, our kiwi growing guide is one of our most popular YouTube videos. And so obviously there's a lot of people who want to know how to grow kiwis and grow them successfully. I happened to be talking to Bob on the phone one day, and he mentioned how he had learned to grow kiwis by making so many mistakes and offered to show us his mistakes so we would not make them too. You are a very modest man, Bob.
No, I'm either a bad farmer or an incompetent gardener. I don't know which. But they are really, what I want to emphasize is they are amazing plants. They are considered, according to one nutritionalist, the most nutriently dense fruit in the world, having more health benefits than anything else you can buy, period. Okay, this is one of the major mistakes you can make the first year or two in growing hardy kiwis is not having a stake that you can support them with and make them grow straight up to the trellis system. Because once they're like this, they're this way forever. You know, you have to live with your mistake, and this will decrease their life expectancy noticeably. It's not so bad for the first couple of years, but eventually you're going to have to pay the price.
And you were saying that, in fact, because it's not straight up and down, because it's got this arc to it, it will eventually compress itself?
Yes, that's what I've been told. They're not old enough to have that experience yet, but they will. Because if you look at some of the trunks are going to be like this. In fact, I've heard that hardy kiwis after a certain period of time will actually be like this thick, the trunks, which means that they're just weighing them down terribly. Now, I had a problem because I didn't realize this soil had almost no nitrogen whatsoever to it. I had done the little test myself, and I thought the test was erroneous because no color changed at all, but found out it's because there wasn't any nitrogen.
Oh my gosh.
Now, last year, I added the year before last, I added a lot of nitrogen to make up for it. Well, that was a mistake as well because they grew like crazy. They looked beautiful, but there weren't any berries because I had overloaded it on the nitrogen. They wanted to just grow. They didn't want to put out any berries. For me, the 6-foot height recommended for the trellis system is ideal, except when I'm wearing a hat, because the hat gets pulled up constantly. But you want to be sensitive to the fact that maybe 5.5 feet would be better for a lot of people to pick. Even for me, I'm still at least 6'2". I've lost a couple inches, but some of these are getting a little bit hard to reach. So maybe 5.5 feet would be more. The other thing that, we're only 6 feet apart here. You definitely don't want them to be 6 feet apart. You want them at least 15 feet. And the grower in Pennsylvania now has kept lengthening them between rows, and now he's got some that are 40 feet apart. And he says he's actually getting good production off of the ones 40 feet apart because they will actually make it. So you're thinking 15 feet in between rows and rows with plants at 40-foot centers. Yes. Nice. We're talking about they don't need as much sun as most websites will tell you. Full sun, I don't even know whether full sun is actually that good for them, because some of them will have the berries get sunburnt. They'll turn brown on the side facing the sun. Now, we're at a place where they probably only get about 4 or 5 hours of direct sun, and these are my most productive vines. And you can see these are Ken's Reds, so they're still green. They don't ripen until late October. And this year they're probably going to be into November, because everybody's running about 2 weeks late. I mean, in fact, some kiwi growers don't even have any berries to spare because it's running so late.
And here we are at the second location of Broken Shovel Kiwi Farm, Bob's location in Mossy Rock. This is approximately 100 miles south of the place in Burien, right?
Right.
And this is where you've had version 2, right?
Yeah, so I made so many mistakes on the first one, knowing nothing about gardening or farming. After a couple of years, I decided I'd like to see if I could do it right, at least not make the same mistakes, which have a serious impact both on the health of the plant and certainly the berry production. So here we are. First things that I changed, I had actually used some inexpensive treated wood at the other place. The reason I switched is because I'd made so many mistakes, and so first thing I did is instead of using treated wood, I used this Alaskan yellow cedar, which is supposedly going to last a lot longer in the ground than the treated wood. Now I've also changed they are now 15 feet apart, which is the standard for putting the post between the plants. Although that seems to be the minimum. I did it 15 feet. Now I understand why they say that would be the minimum. You could go 30 feet if you wanted to without any problem, because these plants will actually overlap each other even at 30, 40 feet.
So what's the spacing between your posts?
15 feet.
Okay.
And 15 feet in this direction. So, and they will go that way 15 feet if you let them. The next thing I did was I finally got stakes and tried to stake them up straight up so that they don't do that corkscrew, which will eventually cause them to collapse on themselves. So this is my attempt. They still don't want to do it, but you gotta keep, first couple of years you just have to keep, I use Velcro to try and keep them straight up, and it seems to have worked pretty well. There's always the exception.
Now I also noticed that you have overhead sprinklers here versus drip.
Yes, drip worked okay because it's so sandy over there and it doesn't seem to have clogged up, but from what I understand from other people, drip lines will clog up. These kiwis will actually find the drip line and clog up the opening. So these are overhead, and they sprinkle out, each one of them sprinkles out 12 to 14 feet, so they all overlap with each other. Now the disadvantage of this system is the first year or two, the root balls are pretty small on these things. They will actually grow up and out, but the root system is still in there. So this system, which is designed to sprinkle all over the place, doesn't get the water right to the... So for the first couple of years, I've discovered you have to actually I have hanging down lines right next to the plant so they get enough water the first couple of years. After that, they'll spread out, and this will be the ideal situation, I think.
Now, I've always heard that you only need one male for every 8 or 9 female plants if you're growing in quantity.
Right.
How do you work that here?
Well, I've heard the same ratio, so what I did is that I actually have sort of a box type arrangement. So I have 3 rows of 3 plants, and so 3 females in the first row, and then the second row will be a female, male, female, and then 3 other females, so that the male is sitting right in the center of this box with the 8 females surrounding it. And again, they're about 15 feet apart from each other, so that's easily within range of where they're going to be pollinating. Now, that also is useful for at least the way I have it set up, because now I have essentially three boxes. So these rows will each have 9 plants in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 boxes going down the hill here. And then another 3 going down the hill. And so there's always a male right in the center and of each individual box.
Smart.
Hopefully that gets them all pollinated and the bees are happy.
So I know you've talked about there being kind of a sweet spot of a certain number of plants that most people could use as kind of a hobby farm and not be overwhelmed. What have you found that sweet spot to be?
I'm still working on that, but I think about my experience is that I can easily handle in my spare time 27. So this would be like 3 blocks. And one of the important things is to use different varieties so that each block has a different variety. Or you could even have more. I have 9 different varieties here. So, and they all ripen at different times.
Yes.
So I can not get overwhelmed having them all ripen at the same time, where I have to take time more time than I actually have to try and pick.
Mm-hmm.
So as an individual, if you can stagger the ripening time, that will help. Now, actually, 27, I think, would probably, if you do it right now, I'm finally starting to get 25 pounds per plant off of each. So you start figuring that out. Now that's enough to justify taking them to the farmer's market and selling them, and you'll actually get some money to make. You could go more, but all of a sudden you're talking about a whole economic system different, where you have to be almost a full-time farmer. I think 27 is handling it. Once you get larger, all of a sudden the labor cost and whatnot change the whole dynamics. I say if you have an acre that you're thinking, these are the healthiest plants in the world, you know, as far as the berries.
Yeah.
I want to grow these because they're so good for you. 27, yeah. You could do less. I mean, some people only have 2 or 3, but, you know, you're only getting enough to maybe satisfy yourself, but certainly not enough. So you want to grow more if you're going to take them to market. But you need enough to justify the cost of going to the market and all that. So I'm thinking 27, maybe an extra 9. Well, that's 36.
Right.
But after that, you're starting to look at the economics change dramatically. And unless you want to be a full-time farmer.
Right. Which most folks don't want to be.
No, I don't either, but I've got 140 of them here. So
so you're doing all the trialing for us. We get the benefit of that.
Yeah, you can come back in a couple of years and I'll be saying, just shoot me.
I should have stayed with 36.
Yeah, I should have.
Thank you so much, Bob, for sharing all of your learnings and your successes and your failures with us.
Yeah, the failures I want people to be able to avoid and not make the same mistakes I did. Other than that, these are amazing plants. Amazing plants. Yeah. They're so nutritious. I just hope everybody starts planting them, and they can call you to buy them and start as soon as possible.
Start your own experimentation. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. It's Laura with Rain Tree Nursery at Broken Shovel Kiwi Farm. We'll see you next time.